Hey guys, so here we are, it's part 2 of Mels allotments, and this is where we got up to with the wonderful Hyundai strimmer. I've raked all this off, piled it up, and on the way in today I saw these wood chip. The people dump piles of wood chip and manure now and then on the entrance, and so I bagged a few bags of them. And what I've done, I've built this hot bin here to compost down all this grass. Got a bit of wood ash there to mix in with it from the rocket stove. So this is the hot bin, and I'll explain about it in a minute. Basically built out of pallets with Kingspan insulation. It's just some insulation I've had lying around forever. Decided to build this hot bin because with a hot bin, the compost you put in, if you get it right, it heats up to 50-60 degrees and it kills all the weed seed, any disease in the plants, and it's meant to compost a little bit faster. I still haven't got a strimmer, but I'm going to borrow my brother's strimmer. I'm going to catch up with him and I'm going to strim all this mixed weed up because it'll make really good compost, that stuff. It's not just grass, there's a lot of different things mixed in. One thing I am going to do is I'm going to clear this corner as soon as I can and move the IBC from the back to that corner for watering purposes. All I've done today, I just really called in to drop off this hot bin and assemble it, and picked up that wood chip. As I said, this is the hot bin. Kingspan insulation lid, 3 inches of Kingspan around the sides, just stuff I had. That's why it's so extravagant. And I've started putting stuff in. I put a layer of twigs and woody material in the bottom. I then put a layer of grass on. I then put a layer of pigeon poo in, and then I've sprinkled just 1 handful of that wood ash, potash, in there. And I'm just gonna put stuff like them green planting, lush green stuff in there on the base. I believe these things need to have plenty of moisture in them. This grass that was trimmed a couple of days ago is really dry, and this is kind of a mistake I made when I started laying up this hot bin. That is an air pipe which I've put in. It goes through the bottom and it allows air to get into the center of the bin. I'm hoping this will work and heat up the bin faster, and we can make compost a bit faster, or get more heat in the bin ideally, and kill all this grass seed that's on these grass heads. And that's the lid, which is just a friction fit, and I've glued those extra pieces on the top there just to, to overlap the joint and stop the lid falling in. So mission today is really just to get this bin filled up, get it filled up right to the top with all this debris and material I've got lying around, and then I'm going to try and get my brother's strimmer and get the rest of this grass cut down. I've set up another bin here. This is just weeding I was doing. I was pulling out various bits and pieces and just adding them all to this bin, and this stuff, I was just kind of collecting it really. This stuff is all going to go into that hot bin at the front. There's a lot of bits of raspberry and ivy and all kinds of stuff. That planter there, that container, I want to push that over and get it out the way and get the soil out of it and use it on the beds. And I need to get into this raspberry plantation and just thin this out. There's so much grass and weed and things growing in it, but there are loads of raspberries on it, and they are really good. Well, here we are. I managed to get hold of my brother's Husqvarna strimmer, which is just a fantastic strimmer. It's much better than that crappy Hyundai. I'm doing this voiceover because I'm using the little action cam and the sound is really bad on it and it catches the wind so easily. So after this video, and I've realised that in the editing, I took along my big Sony camera, so the next video will be using the Sony much better. So anyway, I spent a good half day there and I managed to get all the strimming done. Mel turned up, about half an hour after I'd started with his little strimmer, and he went right down the boundary there with next door's allotment. So he went right down that side and he trimmed the paths outside where all the nettles and that were growing. So my next job is finally to be able to get this hot bin filled up with all this grass, all this green material with a mixture of everything in, and get all this stuff rotted down and get all this seed killed off. I managed to get hold of some of that black weed matting control stuff. It's like a weave polypropylene material, and I'm just going to cover all this with I've not got that much. I've not got enough to cover the allotment, but I've certainly got enough to cover, you know, a good portion of the allotment. So as soon as all this grass is raked up and moved, I'm going to put that stuff down just to try and keep the weed down a little bit. So over to the hot bin, and this is its first filling, which I'd done the day before. I'd used all the grass from that trimmed area, and I'd put wood chip in, and I'd actually fill the box up to the top, and you can see that it's sunk about 10 or 12 inches, and it's already starting to heat up. That's just after one day. I was really surprised how much that had sunk overnight. So what I'm going to do today is just top the bin up with some more of this grass and weed material, and just keep doing that. So I'll just bring in on a brief tour of the hot bin and the filling. So that's fill 1. So I topped it up, and this is the next day, fill 2. Get that lid off, and you can see that it's just sunk again, but it's much hotter, full of condensation, which is dripping off the lid. And it's still at the point where you can put your hand in and feel the heat, and it is hot. The grass is really hot, but you're still able to touch it by hand. So what I did this day, I just simply topped the bin up again with more grass and more weed and wood chip and wood ash and pigeon muck, and then I left it alone. I came back the next day, and this is what I found. Next day, my God, it was hot now. It was really hot, and it was actually so hot that you couldn't bury your hand in and keep it there. What I did, I brought a thermometer with me, and I used a piece of copper to push the probe into, and just taped it on so that I can push the actual probe into the compost and see what sort of temperatures it's getting up to, because this is only 3 days. So yeah, that's all I did, so I can push it down into the middle of the compost heap, and let's see how much heat this thing's generating. As I said, it needs to get up to around 50 degrees to kill all this weed seed off. It takes it a second or two to display the temperature, but it's already at 30 degrees. Then it went up to 50 degrees, and it was kind of rising all the time. What it shows is the ambient temperature outside, and then it shows the temperature of the probe, which is now at 50. And it was still going up and going up, and it's gone up to 55.5, and I was really pleased at that point. Then it went up to 62. There is a door on the bottom there which I can remove, and that's how I empty the bin, and there's just a piece of wood across it at the moment holding the front on. And I will remove that door and have a look and see what's happening at the bottom. But that's the temperature. It's kind of stabilized at 67 degrees, which, wow, I was really pleased with that, because that will kill all that grass seed. I'm going to take the bottom off and just have a look what's going on in there. This is me removing the front panel, and as you can see, there is a load of fungus in there, but the big problem is it's just hand warm there. The massive problem is it's just so dry. It really is dry, and I guess the stuff I was putting in initially was really dry, and it's just not managed to hold enough moisture. The moisture's probably evaporated out of this bottom section as it heated up, so now it's just like dust in there, and this kind of went on to be an ongoing problem over the next sort of 4 or 5 days with this bin. I was pouring water into the top, but the water wasn't saturating this bottom layer. So the next day I'd filled up again, and the pile had dropped again, and it's the heat's still increasing. It's really hot in there. I'd actually put a watering can or two full of water on the pile the day before, topped it up again, and it sunk again. Not as much today, probably about 6 inches, but it's still heating up and it's still working. The next day, here we go again. I'd put some more water in it the previous day, topped it up, and now it's sunk again about another 10 inches. So it's still continuing to compress, sink down. But what I did notice, the area around the pipe was about 5 or 6 inches lower than the surrounding bin. You can maybe see it there. It's not that good on this camera, but it tells me that the activity around that air pipe is so much greater. It's obviously getting hotter, there's more oxygen getting in. So when I empty this bin, I'm going to put about 5 of these air pipes in this hot bin, and I can just simply remove them, pull them out when I come to empty the bin, because they really do work. So that was it. That was the next day, and I'd filled up again and it had sunk again, and I continued to do so. What I actually did in the end was pull a load of the grass out the bottom to try and and I put it back into the top, the dry stuff, to try and recompost it. But going forward, that's what I'm going to have to do. Well, I'll be back in the next one, guys, where I show you the progress on the actual allotment now, and it's looking a lot better. So thanks to my patrons. I'll see you shortly in the next vid, guys. Bye for now.